Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Kang. He's still the villain of Avengers 5 and 6. What? All the reports and all the stuff where we talk about how they're moving away from Kang is fake? Wait, what? Jonathan Majors coming back? Yeah, probably not on that last one. Maybe not on any of that. Let's talk about what's happening, okay? Yeah, so yesterday, insider Daniel RPK dropped a couple of scoopy scoops, leaks, whatever you want to call them. And one of the things that was said is kind of shaking up the internet right now, shaking up the fan base. I'm just going to read what he said, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down, okay? It says here, got it confirmed again that Kang will still be the villain in the Avengers movies, but they want to add another one. Okay, so that is the whole thing. That's all he said. I'm going to read it again, and then we'll talk about it. Got it confirmed again that Kang will still be the villain in the Avengers movies, but they want to add another one.
Another one.
Okay, so what the fuck is going on? This has been an ongoing debate, an ongoing point of confusion for many different fans, including myself, and the saga of confusion continues, okay? So I want to break this down, and I think the best place to start is by talking about bias, okay? So I want to talk about Daniel's bias, but I also want to talk about my bias, because I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and I think if we understand the perspective that Daniel has and the perspective that I have, I think we'll understand a little bit better of like what's going on here. So I think Daniel obviously has a bias to continue to say that Kang is a part of the multiverse saga and will be the villain of Avengers 5 and Avengers 6. And it might just be as simple as he reported that. And because he reported that, he now feels obliged, maybe even obligated, to continue to report that and to sort of filter the updates and the information that he's getting from his sources through the lens of, yes, this is true because I reported it. I think I've also seen Daniel tweet about how he just can't conceive or believe that Marvel would just go away from Kang, right? So I think that's kind of part of it. That's his bias. Now, my bias in this is that I think Kang sucks. And I think that by parting ways with Jonathan Majors, you have an opportunity, not a freaking bottleneck, not something that you're forced to do, but an opportunity to move away from a dumb, stupid villain that should have never been in charge of a multiverse saga. Also, I just think, like, with Major's trial and sentencing, sentencing is coming up and everything, with all of that still out there, it probably just is smarter to go away from that character as to not, like, evoke the spirit of Jonathan Majors or start up all of those discussions, right? And again, I think there are really good people that have been reporting about this. So one thing that's kind of interesting here is, like, you've got this Avengers 5 thing. It's not the Kang Dynasty anymore. I know there was some kind of confusion about that. It's not. And that's been reported and corroborated, and a lot of people are talking about that. So it's no longer the Kang Dynasty. And you have trade reporters talking and sort of saying, like, they're going to go away from it. You had Alex Perez saying they're going to sweep it under the rug. And so that's kind of the biases. Is like, for me, I'm like, I want them to go away from Kang. And I think Daniel, like, wants to be right and wants them to not go away from Kang, okay? So with that in mind, I think, it's worth thinking about what could actually be being reported here by Daniel, because Daniel couches things. He sort of reports with an angle a lot of the time, in my opinion. We've been talking about it for months, okay? So I guess the first question I have, and we can kind of talk through this together. When Daniel says, my source reached out again or confirmed again that Kang will be the villain of Avengers 5 and Avengers 6. It's really interesting stuff going on there. I mean, number one, he's not referring to it as the Kang Dynasty because it's not. Number two, it's like he's reporting what he has already been reporting. And in my mind, the only way that Daniel's reporting lines up with what other reliable people are talking about is if he's not really talking about Kang. He's talking about the Beyonder Kang, who I think will be the guy. And I don't think there's any debate about that. Like a lot of people, like Alex Perez and the Cosmos, they wrote this great article kind of in the midst of Jonathan Major's situation going down. And what they kind of said was they're going to sweep it under the rug. They might even bring in other villains, which again is something that's now reported by Daniel himself. But they still said, for better or worse, it's going to arrive at a Kang variant. And to me, that's the Beyonder. So when I read this report from Daniel, the vibe I'm getting and what I think's happening is that it's the Beyonder, who's technically a variant of Kang, yes, but that's the main bad guy. So yeah, that's what I think is going on. But again, I have my bias. Daniel has his bias, right? So I think it's important to kind of keep that in mind. I think where this gets really interesting is this discussion of another one, right? Like, what a weird concept. Like, what a weird idea. And also, what a weird thing to report. Like, let's read this again. Got it confirmed again that Kang will still be the villain in the Avengers movies, but they want to add another one. Well, I mean, look, I don't know if this is purposely vague language, but this is weird because the villain, another one, the villain? I mean, the syntax would imply that this is more than just another villain being thrown in there. This is a villain that will also be predominant. That will be the villain. Do you see what I mean? So I don't know. I can't tell you if that language is like specifically vague or what. But when I think about it, I'm like, okay, so Kang's still the villain, but they want another one. That's so weird. Why would they do that? Why would they want another villain? Like, if they're sticking with Kang, why do they need this other villain? Like, you see what I mean, chat? Like, it's kind of weird, you know? Like how does that make sense? How do you make sense of that? You know what I mean? And then, I think it's worth reminding you of a couple of weird things. Number one, of course, there's like this Doctor Doom rumor. I've been quite keen on that. And, Jeff Snyder said, I think in the wake of all the Jonathan Major stuff when it was going down, Jeff Snyder said something to the effect of, my sources had always told me that Doom was the villain of Secret Wars. Not a villain, the villain. Again, syntax, context, what are we talking about? Nobody knows for sure. It's a game of telephone between sources and scoopers. But the villain, I mean, that kind of implies that he's the one. That Doom would be the one to, like, be the guy. And so there's, of course, like, questions about that. And the more I think about it, the more I don't think that's actually what they're going to do. But there is some evidence. I mean, they have Doom on the cover of a comic in the Deadpool trailer. Do you know what I mean? So that's crazy. That's weird. And I'm like, okay, so that's one thing that I think of. Another thing that I've been thinking of, and I've been trying to find out where Alex said this, but Alex Perez was talking about this villain in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Maybe you guys can help me. If you're a big Avatar: The Last Airbender head, maybe you'll understand who this villain is. He was talking about a villain that kind of like, I guess at this point in the story, there was another villain being built up, and then all of a sudden this other villain kind of comes in and takes over, and then that's the main villain now. And it was like pretty shocking to the fan base. It didn't feel earned, and it felt weird. Does that happen in Avatar: The Last Airbender? Okay, and Ozai? Okay, and so that's the context of that, I think. The point is, Alex was talking about how that seems to be something that they're going to do with Kang, but that the Ozai was not going to be Doctor Doom. No, not really. Well, then maybe I'm getting that a little bit wrong. But I remember, I've reached out to him actually, because I want to get this clarified. But I remember him and a few others talking about this, where that was a concept. There was a specific villain that like triggered the fan base, and it was something like that happened. But yeah. So point being, is that what's going on? Is there going to be somebody that sort of last minute takes the power of the Beyonder, or sort of usurps the power of the Beyonder, other than Doctor Doom? You're thinking of Korra? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of Naruto. Maybe it was fucking Naruto I was thinking about. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it was Naruto. I don't know. The point is, when I looked it up, because I saw the tweet and I was like, what the hell is this motherfucker talking about? I looked it up, and it was a villain that had that reputation. Like, it was people saying, like, that was something that happened and everybody got really mad because it just didn't feel earned or whatever. Toy Story 3? Ah, shit, it was Toy Story 3 the whole time. I know it. Do you even anime, bro? Is Avatar: The Last Airbender anime? I don't think it is. Is it? That's a whole nother thing. That's kind of a question where my mind goes as far as this other villain is concerned. And, Alex had reported that they did want to introduce other villains from throughout the Marvel multiverse, and that they were going to fill the void of the Council of Kangs. I've heard some other crazy things about like long range plans that Marvel had to sort of tie other villains of franchises to Kang and things of that nature. So, you know, I'm just kind of interested in how that's all going down, how it's going to tie together, okay? But there was another thing that this made me think of kind of randomly, okay? Because, like, I'm really trying to figure this out. And to me, this part of it is really fun. Like, I love this part of it, actually. Like, hearing what people say and thinking about old reports, trying to tie them all together. You know, I like that kind of stuff, okay? But here's something that this made me think of, and I want to know what you think of it. Marvel withdrew trademarks for the Timeless Saga, Eternity Saga, Nomad, Runaways New Era. This was 4 or 5 months ago. But they did not withdraw the trademark for Avengers Eternity War. Okay? Why is this important? Well, long before the Jonathan Majors situation and him being fired by them and all of that, right? There were rumors already about Eternity Wars, which was essentially a second part to Secret War. In, I think it was 2020, maybe it was 2019. I don't know, the time's flying. When they... It was 2 years ago. Jesus, was it 2022? I don't even what is time? When Feige came out and announced Secret War. Earlier that week, trademarks that Marvel got leaked. And it was a ton of them. One of them was Avengers Secret Wars, which was why I was like, yo, they're going to announce Secret Wars at San Diego Comic-Con. Let's go. You know, made the thumbnail, got all excited. Nobody would confirm it for me, but I was right. Along with Avengers Secret Wars was a trademark for Avengers Eternity War. And it was so weird that Eternity Wars was an Avengers title that was trademarked right along with Avengers The Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars, but it wasn't mentioned by Kevin Feige at all, okay? Now, moving into the following year from that, which I think was last year, do you guys remember when the Marvel Studios spoilers subreddit was taken down for a while and Marvel was literally trying to sue Reddit into exposing the IP address of certain leakers and things of that nature? Do you remember when that happened? Well, ironically, right before that happened, there was this massive leak, a huge dump from the mods over there, and it had a ton of shit in it, dude. One of the things that was in there that was interesting was this idea of Secret Wars being 2 parts and the idea of a Battle World saga happening between the 2 movies. Still something I believe is happening. But I say all of that to say that I believe Secret Wars was always going to be 2 parts. Kang Dynasty was going to happen, then you were going to get Secret Wars, and then I think Feige would basically end it on a cliffhanger and bring out Eternity Wars. That's just a theory. I don't know for sure, but that's kind of the theory I had. So now that Avengers 5 is essentially going to be Secret Wars Part 1, like, you know, some debate on that, but that really does seem the way that they're going. It's going to be multiversal way faster, and we're going to get into Secret Wars. All of a sudden, I started to think about Eternity Wars, and I was like, huh, could that be this other villain that takes the power from Kang? Is it related to Eternity, or somebody related to the Eternity run or the Eternity War run in comics? So I was like, man, that's kind of interesting. So whoever this other villain is that they are adding to Avengers 5 and Avengers 6, the identity of that villain, I think, is going to tell us a lot about what the plan is for Secret Wars and potentially for what the plan is for Eternity Wars, and this idea that maybe we're really talking about a trilogy of Avengers movie. You know what I mean? So who knows for sure? But that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this report. And again, the Kang thing for me, like, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be mad if they bring Kang back. Like, I don't care that much. I would much prefer other villains. I think this report indicates you are getting another villain, but you're still going to get Kang, and that makes sense to me. You know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of threads that connect to Kang still, and you at least have to acknowledge them before you then move past them. So I think you need the council because you need them to be destroyed or taken care of, and that sets up another thing. You need somebody that's connected to whatever the Bangles are. You need somebody that's connected to the 10 Rings, and they've done so much building that up with Kang. So I think that you kind of have to have Kang, at least in some regard. But I think what Daniel's really talking about here is the Beyonder, who's a variant of Kang and will be the big bad of Secret Wars. But this other villain, dude, like, I can't stop thinking about it. It could be Doom. I kind of doubt that it is. It could be King Thanos. Kind of doubt that it is, but I think it's actually more probable than Doom. It could be the maker. What if it's an evil variant of Reed Richards that we meet in the next couple of years that's connected to the first firmament, which is what happened in Eternity Wars? That kind of shit would be absolutely mind-blowing. So when this report first came out, I saw so many people being like, dude, they're just recasting. It's just back to Kang. I see this report differently. So I want to kind of give you the nuanced take and tell you what I think is actually going on. And of course, I'm going to be following up on this and looking for more evidence, because whoever the second villain is, that's the key. That's the key to understanding what's happening here. And if it was another Kang variant, I think Daniel would have just said that, because he's so convinced and his bias is as such that he would have loved to report multiple Kangs and Kang variants as the villain. You see what I mean? So that's what I think's going on. Would love to know what y'all think about that.